Welcome to Valor and Virtue. I'm Jim Danielson. Today we have with us Gunnery Sergeant Louis Alers, United States Marine Corps retired. And we'd like to begin by asking you a little bit about yourself and what led you to become a Marine.
Thank you for having me here. I'm a retired gunnery sergeant. I've been in 22 years. I have 2 children, both females, and I have now 5, going on 6 grandchildren. Yeah, it's spread. I'm originally was born in Puerto Rico and raised in Bronx. And I hated New York. I hated being there. I needed to get away from, I loved my mom, but I didn't want to live there with her. So I had to get out from underneath there. So I had an uncle that he was an Air Force guy and I couldn't stand him. And that was the truth. I really never liked him. But he kept pushing, go to the Air Force, go to the Air Force, don't join the Marine Corps, join the Marine Corps, because they live like savages, they don't get treated right, blah, 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 blah. And the more he said that, the more I said, oh, the Marine Corps sounds great. And went down to Fordham Road Recruiter, saw Staff Sergeant Gadsden, and signed up, delayed enlistment, got out of high school, and went. Never came back.
So when were you at Parris Island?
I was in Parris Island, 78, 1st Battalion, B Company.
Okay, so when you got to the Marine Corps, and I guess especially when you got out of boot camp and you got into the fleet, were you living like a savage?
Well, I was living in, I first went to H&S Battalion. I was working, I was supposed to be doing a exchange and PX guy, because I guess I scored, I was not that bright or whatever. But the MOS went away. Next thing I know, I'm doing comm. So I went to 2nd FSSG. I was up at French Creek. At the time, it went from FSG to FSSG to now it's ended up Triple S. And I sent to Geiger as a wireman, and that's when we had hard checks. Funny part about hard checks, with being a wireman, we had to climb up telephone poles, because that's our line of work, climbing up poles, setting up the wiring and comm. Well, payday, our hard checks were tacked on top of the telephone pole. And you weren't allowed to tell anybody what check it was, so you had to put your cleats and everything on, climb up the pole, get up to the top, pull the check out. Shit, not mine. Put the thing, come back down, and go until you got to your check. And sometimes you were lucky, first pole you went up, you got the check, you got your check, you went to secure. You go cash it. If you was just having a string of bad luck, you were climbing checks all over the place.
Well, that sounds like a real adventure. What was the purpose of it?
Basically, because climbing a telephone pole, it's kind of nerve-wracking at first because you're kind of shaking, because you look down, you're like, oh, wow, I'm kind of up here. But you get comfortable using the gear, realizing that those cleats, once they're you don't have to stab it so many times. But once you're on the pole, them cleats will hold you. Even if it's only a 1/4 inch deep and you think that's not that much, it will hold you. So you climb up there and you become comfortable, now. Especially when you have to go up there to get your check, and you're like,
yeah. Well, this sounds like something that's really physically demanding, of the level of demand that a professional athlete might have to have. And do you find that you have sort of a short life doing that? When you start reaching a certain age and your legs aren't quite...
Oh, your knees go to pot, your back goes out. You make old man noises early.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's something that you don't really think about it, because I think because you did it. Just like boot camp, graduating boot camp. You remember when you pick up, there'd be 80, 90 people in that squad bay or whatever. And you graduate and you don't have that number anymore.
No, you don't.
And you are like, I made it. I'm one of the few that made it through this thing. I'm graduating on time. I'm not recycled. And you take that pride in, number one, as I found out later on, 1% of the nation actually serves this country, of all the population. And of that population, less join the Marine Corps. And of that less graduate.
That's right.
So you are at the top tier. You have accomplished something that a lot of people out there take for granted. They're here, oh, I got an A in school. Well, we got an A in school, and we were physically put to the test and challenged daily. And we're something special, not to be blowing up, but We are something special.
It's important that you say that, because that's something that kind of thing where a young person first starting out really needs the confidence boost of accomplishing something that's hard to do, that not everybody does. It gives you a certain kind of distinction. I remember we started with something like 83 recruits and graduated 43, something like that. And it is just as you say, when you're out there on that parade deck on graduation day, you feel great. And now you took the heat and gave out the heat, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about being a drill instructor?
10 years later, as a matter of fact, it was kind of crazy. I was at California in El Toro, and I got orders to Paris Island, which was San Diego's down the road, but monitors and infinite wisdom wanted me to go back to the East Coast. So I go back to the East Coast, went through DI school. Now, DI school's the same thing. You know, it's weeding you out.
Really?
And you go through basically boot camp again, but now we adding attention to detail, meticulous attention to detail, gig line, that line on your belt, pockets got to be all that. I mean, I remember I got hit on an inspection because we had the brass belt that you shine, and you know, you try not to touch it,
right,
to tuck it in. Well, for whatever ungodly reason, I put my thumbprint on the inside as I was pushing it down with my glove to make sure I didn't smudge the brass. And I got hit for that. And she's like, smudge brass. I'm like, and she pulled my belt like this, and I'm like, oh my Lord, which first made me angry because I got hit for something like that, which made me more focused on don't fail these inspections. You paid attention to every single detail. And the reason you did that is because when you walked out in front of those soon-to-be Marines, those recruits, they're looking at you. Their eyes, you have 60 pairs of eyes looking at you. Everything, hair, your shoes, your brass, because you are what they want to emulate.
That's right.
You are setting the standard of what they should be when they get out into the fleet. And they look at everything you do, and then a lot of times they take on your mannerism, because you all of a sudden, some of them have no dads.
Right.
And you're the only male mentor that ever took time, and not that you're taking time to mentor them, you're treating everybody the same, but this is the only male mentoring they ever received in their entire life. And now they look at you as almost like their dad. You know, you're the evil dad, the good dad, whatever you want to call it, but you're the one that holds them to task, makes them do what they're supposed to do, and pushes them to their potential. And when, you know, I know Staff Sergeant Howard, drill instructor Sergeant Thompson, and drill instructor Sergeant Plord. Those were my 3 drill instructors when I graduated boot camp in '78. And if I know them to this day, Plord scared the hell out of me. He would just look crazy, but he was a good Marine. He's always squared away. So if I can still remember him, there's recruits out there now, grown men, retired, they still remember my name. Ironically, Lieutenant Colonel Landry, laundry number 16. So he came to my office, he was retiring. And we were talking, and I said, well, you could take one of my cards and everything. And he's like, Alers. I was like, yep. Platoon 1016? I was like, yeah. I'm laundry number 16. I was like, oh. And he's retiring after 30 years.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking about myself, he's retiring after 30 years. That's 30 years that ago. Well, I already had 10 something plus years in the Marine Corps. And now I'm retiring. I put him in boot camp, graduated him, and now I'm retiring him. It was just a big circle of life. He came back. It was amazing. We still keep in contact through Facebook, but he's doing good. He's out there, and it just makes me feel that I did something. I made an impact. Not, I didn't invent, cure for cancer, but I impacted these young men' lives in such a way that they've hopefully gone out there and performed well, did something to attain, satisfaction in them.
Sure.
And made a contribution to society.
That's kind of where we're going with it, because we say, well, okay, not everybody who serves in the Marine Corps will retire from the Marine Corps. But wouldn't you say they will go back to society better able to be good citizens, better able to be good fathers, mothers, whatever it is. I take it you would agree with that.
I do. I mean, I did, honestly, my first 4 years, I did get out. And I went back home and I realized I was back in the rut. I could not stand being in the same projects. I lived in 108 Avenue D and in the Lower East Side of Manhattan at the time. And I just couldn't see myself back into this nothing. I was insignificant. In the Marine Corps, I had a purpose. Here, I had no purpose. So truthfully, I went to the Air Force recruiter first. I walked in the door and I looked at him and he was like, "Oh, you're a Marine? Well, you only did 4 years. Yeah, come back on Monday. We'll look at you because, you're not brainwashed. You know how you Marines get." I was like, okay. And I'm looking at his uniform, like, it kind of irked me. So I walked out the door and I looked to the right and down the hall was a Marine Corps recruiter's door open. And I made a right face, went straight down there, showed him my DD-214. You want to come? I want to come back. And he said, "Oh, retread, huh?" "Yep." "When do you want to leave?" "So when can I leave?" "Friday." "All right, I'll be back." And never looked back.
All right, go ahead.
It's the thing is, when you have a purpose. Whether you want to admit, whether you like your job, you don't like your job in the Marine Corps, you have a purpose. You have a thing that you have to do. When you get out, it's easier to get that purpose, whether it's to continue the education, whether it's to whatever it is to fulfill it. You don't want to be a troop because you got leadership skills. Lance Corporal Schmuckatelli got more leadership skills than Sam Civilian. You know how to take charge and you know how to delegate. Those are things that are important. So when you go out there, an employer is looking at, he's a take charge kind of guy. He shows up for work every day. He's here on time. He has all his stuff together. I'm going to hire him. And then you start showing up and then other people start noticing that, hey, he's a go-getter. We need to promote him to supervisor or manager, and you excel because you bring that to, this is what they teach you in boot camp, what they instill in you in the Marine Corps, you take with you to the civilian world, which makes the worker, makes the job, and your community a better place because you're bringing leadership and steadfastness.
Gunny, usually the final question we ask is, what do you think the Marine Corps and the Marine Corps experience has to say to what we could all recognize right now is a lot of dysfunction in our society right now? You just beautifully answered the question, but so I'm not going to ask it again. I'm just going to say on that topic, as we wrap up, please say whatever you want to say.
I know this sounds like such a cliche, but when I die and they're going to put my body over here at the Veterans Cemetery, it'll say Gunnery Sergeant Alers. I am recognized by the United States government. I have an ID card that says my name. That's what I am. You can't take that title from me.
That's right.
I'm going to be putting that dirt, Gunnery Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, retired. This is something that a lot of these civilians don't have. I'm Dr. Schmuckatelli. Well, here lies Dr. Schmuckatelli, mom, dad, boyfriend, whatever. But here lies Gunnery Sergeant Alers. It's more, I think it just proves that I made a change. I did something. And I'm going there as that. And as far as my society is concerned, we have to understand everyone is capable of everything, but we need to stop making excuses.
That's right. Yeah.
We need to stop these excuses. You are having a bad day, there's no reason to act like that. Suck it up, buttercup, because the world doesn't owe you anything. As you learn in boot camp, when you get there, so they don't care whether you was rich, uneducated, hillbilly, New York City hood, whatever. They put you together and you're sweating on the quarterdeck.
That's right.
And you make some good friends out there. I learned about spitting tobacco and, hunting from some friends from Alabama. I listen to country music. Wayne Jennings.
Well, don't you do that in southern New York City?
Yeah, the southern part. But I learned all these things, and they listened with me. We lived in a squad bay. One minute we have hip hop, and next we had country, and they're all playing. You can go to different cubes and kind of go to every state when you walked around in the barracks.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that made we realized, hey, this is ours. This country is ours. It's a whole melting pot. Don't care where you're from, because this is the ship we on. And if it sinks, we all drown.
sounds very much like what you're describing there is sort of in a small scope, a living cultural tradition that everybody belongs to,
Yes.
which is certainly, you know,
And
something.
everybody has the EGA. Everybody, ego, globe, and
That's
anchor.
right.
That makes us all brothers. No matter where you came from, what religion, we're all brothers because we all know, we all been yelled at. We've all climbed on the quarterdeck. We've all wished we were never born, but we all did the same thing and we all made it.
Well, Gunny, you make me wish you were my drill instructor when I was there, but
I don't know about some of the recruits that'll tell you that. But yeah, it's a good thing, and I'm very proud of what I've done.
as you should be. Gunnery Sergeant Louis Alers, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate
Yes, sir.
it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.